Good morning, y'all. Capt.Collier here. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time tuning in, normally this is a fishing channel. However, today we're going to be doing a 100-hour maintenance service on our Mercury Verado 300 V8. So if that's something y'all are interested in and learning about today, that is what we're going to be doing in today's video. So as you can see behind me, I've got all of our parts, tools, and everything laid out that we will be using in today's video. So we've got our 4-stroke Marine 10W30 synthetic blend oil, which is what this motor recommends to use. We've got 1 gallon and 3 quarts of that. We've got our lower unit oil or gear lube, however you want to call it. We've got our oil filter. We've got our gaskets for our lower unit screws for our drain and fill or our vent screws. We've got a fuel filter, water separating fuel filter, which we will change up in here. We've got 2 different size oil filter wrenches, handy pair of, I believe these are spark plug pliers is what they're used for, but you really need this to change out the fuel filter that's in this motor. We will get to that in a later part of the video. Got to have a 2x4, of course, to take the prop off. We've got an 1/16 wrench to take the prop nut off, and then I think this is a 5/8, yep, 5/8 wrench here, or socket, for that. And then of course we've got a big flathead screwdriver for the vent and drain screws. So full disclosure, I'm not a professional, licensed, anything like that, but I do my own 100-hour maintenance, and I've been doing it for the last 800 hours. So if y'all would like to save some money and do it yourself, it's really not that hard. Maybe a 45 to an hour-minute job, depending on how many times you've done it and how used to it you are. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. If y'all enjoy the video or if you learned something, please leave me a thumbs up, consider subscribing to the channel. So first things first, we are gonna start the engine. As you can see, I've got water going to the foot here. We're gonna let it run for about 5 minutes or so, just a couple minutes to kind of warm the oil up to allow it to drain more easily. And so that's what we're gonna go ahead and do, get the engine started. Pretty loud when it's out of the water, but you do want to make sure that the motor is peeing, that there's water flowing through everywhere it's supposed to flow. So while that's running, I do apologize, I did forget to mention we are going to need a couple feet of some 5/8 inch hose, and this will be to drain the oil from the motor to our oil pan. Secondly, you're going to need an oil pan, and then this is a gear lube pump. Basically, you'll just pump your gear lube into the lower unit there, and yeah, so that should be all we need there. So we just ran the motor for about 5 minutes. We're going to trim the motor up, that way we can take this prop off, and then we're going to drain the lower unit oil as well as the engine oil. So the purpose of the block here is to basically pin that prop up against there. That way you can use your 1/16 socket and remove the nut. And there we go. Make a few turns on that. All right, we got that loose. Can remove our block here. And it's always good whenever if you've never done this before, take things off and remember the way they go back on. So we've got our nut, we've got a few washers here, take those off. We'll sit them over here on our handy dandy garbage can workbench. All right, so all that's removed. We're ready to remove the prop. Beautiful. We'll set it down here. And it's always good to inspect everything in here, ensure there's no braided fishing line or monofilament line. It's always good just to do this every couple weeks or every couple months anyways, if you are on the water a lot, just to make sure everything is in good working order. Everything looks good in here. This is your drain for your lower unit oil, and this is the vent, and I will kind of explain to y'all once we get the motor trimmed down what we need to do here. Go ahead and get it trimmed down. We'll get our oil pan, get it in place. All right, so we've got our motor trimmed down here. We're gonna go ahead and pop off the drain screw, which is right here under the shaft. There may be a little bit that's gonna come out but shouldn't be a whole lot until you loosen up the vent screw. You want to make sure you get that gasket too, or that washer. Remove it. You can see there's the gasket there. Very little coming out. I'm going to go ahead and unscrew the vent screw here, and then you'll see it start to come out pretty easily once it gets some air through there. All right. As you can see, it's starting to drain out right there. That'll probably take 10 or 15 minutes for it to drain completely. You do want to make sure that you don't get these screws mixed up. This is our drain screw, this is our vent screw, and we'll just make sure we know which is which when we go to put it back. And we also are going to swap out these gaskets here, so we won't need these. All right, so while that's draining, we are going to go ahead and remove the engine oil as well. Right here is where you're going to put your 5/8 socket. Now we're going to loosen it up with the socket first. All right, once we get it somewhat loose, we're going to go ahead and stick our hose and fit it right over top of that fitting. All right, a little difficult there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to screw this counterclockwise, and as you can see, the oil is starting to drain out right there. And usually you can just kind of leave this in your drain, your oil pan. Just make sure the wind don't blow it around. So now we've got the lower unit oil draining and we've got the engine oil draining. Should take about 10 or 15 minutes or so. We'll let that completely drain out. While we do that, we'll go ahead and remove this Calon and change out the fuel filter. On a side note, it's always good to have some of these rags right here or paper towels just to clean up any oil or spills or anything, because doing this kind of stuff, it seems like you always get oil somewhere, either on yourself or on the motor, that you will have to wipe down and clean up. All right, so while the oil is draining, we are going to go ahead and remove the Calon. Now it is easier if the motor is trimmed up and it's a little bit closer to you to remove the Calon, but while the oil is draining, it's really not all that difficult to take it off. So you want to push in this little hatch here. I'm going to push down on this red button, pick up, you'll hear it lock. Pick it up just like so. It is a little heavy. Be very careful. And we're going to ease it down on the boat. There we go. All right, so now we have access to fill our oil, check our oil, change our oil filter, and right now we're gonna go swap out the fuel filter. And also, if y'all didn't know, if you take the Calon off, there is a recommended use, and it tells you what to do every 100 hours, or once yearly, every 300 hours, or every 3 years. So we're doing all of this stuff. Except for the anodes, I did already replace those and the thermostat, and spark plugs are optional. I do not swap out the spark plugs. I do that every 300 hours. They usually look fine. But here is your fuel filter. It's located on the starboard back side of your engine, and this is where our handy dandy pliers are going to come in handy, because it is kind of a pain in the butt to get this off. So to get this fuel filter out, you have to push in on this red tab here, and then I'll use these pliers and kind of grab the hose as you're pushing in on that red tab, and you just kind of wiggle it and pull it out. And so I'm going to do that. Might not be able to get that on camera, but you have your inlet and your outlet back there, or vice versa, inlet, outlet. We're going to go ahead and remove that. But before we do that, I did forget, there is a sensor right here. I'm guessing that's a water sensor there. There's a little tab you're gonna have to pull up with your finger and then push out at the same time, just like that. We'll just kind of push that up out of the way, push it over here, and then we're gonna go ahead and remove that. Boom. There's the first one. Got that one removed. Put push it out of the way. This one is the one that can be a pain in the butt. That's why these pliers come in handy here. Push down on that red tab, wiggle and pull, push out. All right, there we go. All right, so we've got both those hoses removed. Now we're gonna spin this clockwise, about 1/4 of a turn, and we're just gonna pick up on it, and boom, there it is. A little bit of fuel came out. We'll set this over here. Now to install this, you pretty much put it back in the same way you took it out. You do want to make sure you get it started, get that little pin that's gonna line up in the slot that's down there at the bottom. It's gonna be kind of hard to show on camera, but if you're doing this yourself, you'll see it. Make sure that lines up, turn it 1/4 of a turn. All right, boom. We are installed. We're gonna go ahead and get the hoses back on. You wanna hear them click. Use our pliers here. Boom, that one just clicked. Go ahead and get this one on, get it clicked. Boom. You do want to make sure to reinstall your sensor here. Pretty simple. Plug and play. Alrighty, well, the new fuel filter is installed. That is literally the hardest part of this whole service job, and it's really not that bad once you do it a few times. So now we're gonna go ahead and jump back inside the boat. We're gonna swap out the water fuel separating filter. So the location of your water separating fuel filter may be different in your boat, but for mine, it's in the bilge area, which is right here. Go ahead and take this bucket out. Mine is located right here. Now we're gonna go ahead and take our bigger size fuel filter wrench, and we are gonna remove it. All right. Get that loose. I'll go ahead and unscrew this. There may be a little bit of fuel come out, that's fine. Just let it all drain into the filter here. So we've got our new water fuel filter right here. As you can see, I've opened up one of these quarts of oil, just kind of stuck my finger in there. We're gonna rub this around this seal, this gasket here. Not a whole lot, just a little bit to help with tightening it up and everything. Now you don't have to tighten these up very tight, just go hand tight, and then maybe another little bit more with your wrench. But you don't want it to be super tight on there. Maybe 1/4 of a turn. That's good there. All right, so now the oil is finished draining. The last step before we get to swapping the oil and the lower unit oil out, go ahead and swap the oil filter out while we're here. This should be another item that would come in your 100-hour service kit. Comes with, make sure you take the plastic piece off. Don't be that guy. All right, we got that ready. We're gonna use our small oil filter wrench, and your oil filter is located on your port side of your motor here. We're gonna go ahead and remove it. I've got this rag right here in case there is just a little bit that comes out. There should not be, and also there's a little pan here, and then you've got a drain right here where this yellow tab is, just in case for some reason all the oil does not come out. But we're gonna go ahead and unscrew it here. Be easy with it. Boom. There was just a little bit left in there. All right, now that we've got the old oil filter removed, we're gonna do the same thing that we did with the water fuel separating filter. We're gonna grab a dab of this oil right here and run it across this gasket. Help get that seal a little better. Go ahead and install it. Turn it clockwise. We'll go until it's hand tight. Grab our wrench and go about 1/4 of a turn more. Nothing crazy, y'all. You don't want it so tight where it's a pain in the butt to get back off. That's good. All right, oil filter is installed. Now it's time to go ahead and fill the motor up with some engine oil and pump up the gear lube. So now we can go ahead and remove our hose. We'll go ahead and let it finish dripping down. It is finished draining. Get one of our rags here, just kind of clean this off. And then we're going to turn this hose clockwise just to tighten that back up. And then we'll use our 5/8 socket to tighten it the rest of the way. Go ahead and tighten this back up. That way we don't have to worry about that. Now there is not a gasket that you have to replace on this that I know of. It never comes with the kits, so I do not replace it. Make sure that's good and tight. All right, so now it's time to pump up the gear lube here. This is the pump that we're going to use. You can get this from any of your Yamaha or Mercury dealers, I'm sure, or Amazon, Walmart. It does have this little fitting here. We're going to screw this into the drain side. I'm going to screw it in clockwise. So all we're going to do is we're just going to pump this gear lube in. Usually it takes a little more than 1 quart, 32 ounces. That's why I've got this other bottle sitting right here. And so what we're doing here is we're going to keep pumping until we see the gear lube come out of the vent hole. Then I've got our vent screw here with our new gasket that came in our service kit. And once we kind of let it get all the air out, we're going to tighten up this vent screw. Then we're going to remove this and put in our drain screw, and that's it. All right, as you can see, it's coming out right now. We're going to kind of pump a little bit more, get all that air out. All right, that should be good. We're going to go ahead and install our vent screw here. Make sure our gasket, our new gasket, is on there. Then we'll grab our flathead screwdriver, tighten it up. All right, we'll just kind of go snug with it, and then we'll tighten it up pretty good once we get this drain screw installed. So now we're just going to take this off. We're going to have our drain screw ready to go in. There will be a little bit come out, but it's fine. All right, go ahead and install it. We'll grab our flathead. Go ahead and finish tightening it up. Boom. So we're done with that. We're going to go ahead and grab one of our rags, clean all this off, and we'll go ahead and put the engine oil in. So again, Mercury has done a great job pretty much telling you exactly how much oil you need, 7 US quarts. So we're going to go ahead, take our cap off, we'll set it there, get our funnel in, and pretty much just dump all 7 quarts. In our case, we've got 1 gallon and 3 smaller quarts here. Well, that is 7 quarts. Go ahead and put the cap on that. Throw that out. Remove our funnel. Stick our cap on. And it's always good to get a rag and check your oil stick here. Also gives you a recommendation there. Tells you where it should be, if you need to add more, or if you would, of course, need to remove some if you added too much. However, this should be perfect amount for us. Oh yeah, perfect. Probably can't see it on the GoPro, but it comes all the way up to here, so right where we need to be. Well, that just about wraps it up for our 100-hour service on the Mercury Verado 300 V8. We're gonna go ahead and wrap it up by putting the prop on. We're gonna grab some grease to put on the prop shaft here. Just kind of run some along these splines. You don't have to really cake it on there too much, but definitely want to have some grease in there. Just kind of rub our fingers along there. Then we'll get some on these threads as well for our nut to go on. Let's go ahead and get our prop on there. Make sure it slides on the way it's supposed to. Get it spin just right. There she goes. Give it a few spins, little test spins here. Everything looks, sounds right. Grab our washers. Get them on there the way they came off. Screw our nut in. And we will also use the block to tighten the nut just like we did to take the nut off. Let's get this going. Boom. We are done. That's a wrap. Just a quick little tip before we wrap this video up. If you do saltwater fish, every time you do your 100-hour maintenance, or anytime pretty much you take your Calon off, grab some T9, or Yamaha makes a brand as well. It's basically just a water repellent, kind of helps with the saltwater corrosion and whatnot. We're gonna spray some of this all over the inside of the Calon. Just make sure we get it all up around the spark plugs, anything electrical, around the side of the motor, anything where there's any connections. This stuff will not hurt at all. Definitely don't want to get it around your filter area, but everything else is completely fine. Cannot hurt. Just really helps kind of repel any of that salt water off of your motor. Try not to get it on your belt as well, right up here. Well, there you have it, y'all. Quick 100-hour service video. Please be sure to go ahead and start your engine with some earmuffs and water going to your motor, just to make sure you don't have any leaks around your filters or your gaskets or anywhere else. And other than that, you should be good to go. Hope y'all enjoyed the video. If you did, or if you want to see any more like this, maybe a 300-hour service video or something similar to that, y'all please be sure to comment down below. Let me know. And until next time, catch you back out in the water.